My name is Clarke. I am currently residing on the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation in Southern Ontario. This is my mother's homestead where she's come from. She is Indigenous. And my father is from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, and he is non-Indigenous, or what we used to call him, Caucasian. I grew up in the military life, so my father was in the military. My mom was quite young when she had me and got with my dad and started moving around different places. Life at the beginning was a little complicated for me. Both parents were strict, and that's how my upbringing was, with all the things that go along with that. So I became a really quiet person. I should start off too by saying that I did have congenital heart defects and heart surgery at 4 months of age. Incidentally, my parents were not at the surgery, so they were about 2 hours away when I did my surgery. They were back home. They didn't have a vehicle, so I had no parent there at the hospital during my open heart surgery. And I did find out about that years later. I believe that there's a lot of childhood traumas that help lead up to the health of where people are now into adulthood. And that was something that I had to deal with. Anyway, so I did get surgery at an infancy. I had intended on joining the military. I had actually passed all my testing. I did really well. And the only thing I was waiting for was a phone call. Say, okay, it's basic training time, let's go. And for some reason, that call never came. And I ended up going to school for nursing. When my children were 1.5 and 3.5, I ended up going into nursing school. And it was quite difficult, to say the least, as a single mom, single parent, and going through nursing school. Somehow we made it through, though, and with the help of family and relatives, we did get through that. But after a number of years, I had been really kind of wondering about doing mental health work. And I did dabble in some training here and there with the mental health field, but it was kind of something that my brain was always wanting to lean towards. So a few years ago, I started developing shortness of breath. I was down in weight compared to where I had been for a lot of my adult life, probably about 180 pounds, which is still overweight for a short person. I started getting symptoms when I was working as a nurse. Weight started coming on again, and I thought, must not be as active as I was before. So I was getting high blood pressure readings, and that had never been an issue before. So even with my cardiac history, I had still been fairly healthy. I had been trained to do palliative care nursing, so I was seeing a lot of palliative care patients. And I got to the point where my troubles with my breathing became more of an issue, especially to the clients, than they were. Me coming in, trying to get up the stairs to see them, sitting down and taking a couple minutes to catch my breath, at a point where I was starting to bring my oxygen in with me to where to do the stairs or to get from point A to point B to their rooms or anywhere to see them. By this point, it had gotten quite bad. I finally decided I just can't do this anymore. I'm going into houses that are difficult to maneuver around, also into smoky houses that I always despised cigarette smoke, and having to take care of myself in front of patients before I could care for them. It was just getting to be way too much. The physical maneuvering of patients became very difficult, and I just couldn't keep up anymore. On top of these things, I also have scoliosis, and it's something that I was diagnosed with when I was 12. So between my back, the pain, between the weight gain and the shortness of breath, it just became very difficult to move people, to turn people, to do any things that they needed, to get down on the floor, to do leg and feet dressings, and if they happen to be sitting on a couch, for example. Yeah, it just became too much, and I tried to push further, but I just couldn't. Mentally, I was starting to deteriorate as well. I knew there was something wrong by this point, and I hadn't quite got the diagnosis yet of PH, but it did soon come after pushing and trying to get in to see a doctor. I think I was diagnosed in June of 2019, and I went off work July of 2019. Probably for the next year, I was wearing oxygen pretty much 24/7. Sitting in a chair, so where I am now, just maneuvering myself around became quite difficult and caused me a lot of shortness of breath. So yeah, it was to the point where, all right, I don't think I can do this anymore. So I had to give that up, give that role up. I did not give up my nursing license. And I still have it, but I am now on, what's the term, non-practicing. So I'm a non-practicing registered nurse. I decided to hold on to that because it was a big part of me. It's a big part of my life. It was a great accomplishment for me to get through schooling and having two little ones at home as a single mom. And it was something that was really hard to register in my brain, that you can't do what you've been doing. But I'm hanging on to this because I knew still at that point, even though everything kind of took a dive down, including my mood and everything else, my look on life, my outlook, and the uncertainty, it took a huge chunk out of my well-being. I decided at some point, probably within that first year, well, okay, what can I do? I know that I have been thinking about changing careers. I've been thinking about giving up at least the physical part of nursing. There was something still calling me to the mental health world. Well, I started acrylic painting and I sang. I had sang for many years and I liked writing. And that's most of my life as well. And not that I did a lot of it, but I did like it. And one of my goals since I was a teenager was to write a book, which I still haven't done, but I've started a couple things. I've written a few little things, poems, and I have a long poem. But those kinds of things all mean a lot to me and as who I am as a person. And so I decided at some point along the way, I'm going to somehow combine the creative things with the mental health and the background of nursing and help other people on their journeys and their well-being as well. So that became my focus. And not to say that every day is easy or that I can focus on these things every single day. There are still difficulties. I managed to change my viewpoint and my outlook on life and my perception of life. And I managed to change those things to a positive light and decided, you can still live. You don't have to lay back and wait to die, because what is the purpose of everything that I've done and everything I wanted to be, and always felt like I had a deeper purpose in life. And some people are good getting their purpose fulfilled through looking after their family or through working in a community, and that's enough. But there's something more that I'm meant to give. And I'm still not 100% sure what it is, but I think I'm finally going down the path now. I decided to paint. There was a year, I think between 2019 and 2020, that I really didn't do much of anything. But I think that was my angry year. That was my diagnosis year. It was my spot that made me take a look at my life and decide to change my path. I could lay back and die. Life's over for me, boo-hoo. And I know that's a lot of us, that's where we are, that's where we have been, or we're getting to that point. But there is a point where you can take control of what you can. I had to look at my blessings. So I had to look at, I have my sons. And at that time, they were both home with me. I have one still home now. I have my mom, my dad, my sister. And even though I still had a lot of traumas to deal with, and which I was currently working through and still am, those people were still close to me and important to me. And I was now around my mom's family, side of the family. They were a huge support. So I felt like I couldn't quite leave this area and move away, because I thought about moving down east many times. But I had to use what I could. And also because of being from First Nations community, I thought there's so much I can do. So I'm going to combine all the things I know and put them into a wellness journey for other people. I'm still not 100% sure what that's going to look like, but I have done many paint parties, you might call them. A lot of them are workshops. So I get hired by organizations mostly over, say, a personal paint party. So I've had probably 95% of what I have done has been organizational workshops. I'll get people thinking about positive things. So what do they want for themselves that day or that week or month? Or what would they like to wish for somebody else? And it could be someone they don't necessarily like so much. What do you wish for that person or yourself? Think of one word or a symbol. So it could be a heart, it could be anything, and put that down on the back side of your canvas. And so you write happiness or love, unconditional love, anything that you can think of, or a heart or a star or anything. And that's going to be your focus during that painting. The painting session, you go forward with that thought in your mind. So we really try to keep negative thinking out of it, because it's very, very easy for all of us to think negatively and go, oh, I'm terrible at this. And oh my goodness, there's always negative that we can throw to ourselves. So we really try to take that out of the equation and just keep everything to a positive as much as we can. I would say that normally it does work. It helps most people to stay in more positive mindset. Thinking positively, looking after my mental health, that's been a huge, huge component of my well-being. Continuing to be in therapy, because therapy can be for everyone, not just seriously ill people. It keeps us on track. And that has helped me by looking after the mental health piece, my emotional piece, my spiritual piece, and my physical. So we always know that physical and mental health and emotional and spiritual all go together. We can't look after one and not the rest. We can't expect to do well in one and expect everything else to catch up. We've got to purposely look after all of those domains. I find by doing that and keeping myself in check with my mental health as well, even my spiritual health. And by spiritual health, I mean even things like connecting to nature, learning how to connect with nature, learning how to breathe, learning how to be calm and maybe put yourself in a better place. That becomes really easy to do once you've done it a bunch of times. You may need to focus and push yourself to do it at first, but eventually it's just an amazing place to be. So with meditating, learning how to focus, we can do so much for ourselves, and people need to start looking at that, giving themselves that gift, because it's there. It's in all of us to do. So by looking at all those domains and looking after each one, we do better for our physical health as well. So my physical being has improved. My breathing has improved. My energy level has improved. My focus is starting to improve a little more because that's been very difficult to do. But all in all, if you look after all of those things in your life, you become a better version of yourself. You start to see the world in a positive light again and not think so much about how much life I have left. I still do think of that sometimes. Or when am I going to die? Or what's the purpose if I'm going to be gone in a year or 10 years or 5 years? The purpose is because you need to be here now. You need to be here. You're on this earth. You have purpose. You can take from everything that happens to you in your life and pull it in and switch it around, bam, put it out as something that you can do for yourself and for other people. So that was my choice. And it's not to say that I don't ever struggle with my mood or with triggers or anything that comes up in my life, but I need to know how to come out of that. And with everything I've learned through somatic therapy, there's a thing called FIT. It's focused intention technique. I learned how to do that as well. There is training for that. And it's something you can use on yourself, and it's something you can use to help other people. So give yourself the gift. I'll use that word again, the gift of life. You get to go forward in the way you want to, in the way that you can. And so just do it in whatever way you're able to. And if you look after all the pieces of yourself, it gets easier. And I guess that would be the biggest thing, is transforming my life to meet the needs of not just myself, but others as well. But there came a time where I had to look after just myself, and that was fine. And I decided that's okay. This is what I need to do. My last job was helping to kill me. It was helping to dive me down lower in depths because I wasn't able to focus on myself and my needs. So that really woke me up. It made me go, yeah, I guess I have to listen to myself now and listen to my body. It's telling me things, and do something about it. Don't just keep pushing it back, do something about it. I ended up having to move from where I was, and my rent was going up a little higher every year. I could no longer afford to live there because I wasn't working, at least not getting a nursing income. So my sons and I had to move. Thank goodness for our First Nation. They had been building a new set of townhouses, and one had just been complete, and we were lucky enough to get to move into that. Right at the time, I was running out of money from whatever resources I could get it from. We moved in here. The rent is significantly lower. I know not everybody has that opportunity, but it enabled me to start looking at what I wanted in life instead of worrying about the financial piece. So even if it's a matter of you have to move in with someone or a relative or, something where you might not have as much, you might have to give up some things, which I did, but at least it got me thinking about my life again and having a purpose. So that's where I am now. My name is Clarke, and I'm aware that I'm rare.